Hey everyone, what's going on with all these crypto hacks recently? We see headlines like these more often. Crypto stolen with fake MetaMask extension. Tricks hackers use to steal crypto from people. Help! My MetaMask Ethereum wallet was hacked. OpenSea phishing attack. Well, they stole more than 1.7 million in NFTs from OpenSea users. Even though the attack isn't live anymore. This resulted in 32 victims. How did this even happen? And more importantly, how can you avoid becoming a victim and make sure that your funds and nowadays NFTs are safe? To give you proper answers, I contacted Rick Deacon, CEO of a Web3 security company called Interlock, and he has more than 15 years experience as a security professional. Thanks, Rick, for joining us here today and taking some time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, of course.
I really want to know what happened in your opinion.
Yeah. So I read a number of things about it, and the story kind of changed. And the reason why the story always changes is that phishing as an attack, of course, is not new. It's been happening in Web 2 for a really long time, and it's new to Web 3 simply because Web 3 is new. But every time that someone falls victim to a breach in some way, the first thing they're going to do is always push the blame to somebody else. They're going to say we were hacked and it was sophisticated attack. XYZ was compromised. A third party was compromised. And in this case, the initial reaction from OpenSea seemed very much like we were hacked. So that's why this happened. And as things progressed, what we found was actually much more simple than that. And it turned out to just be more likely a phishing scam. And I say more likely because there's still details that are going to be unraveled. There's still things that can be uncovered, like whether or not there was some sort of insider conspiracy or something like that. But what occurred is that someone smart essentially got a database of emails, which I think there's two ways that could have went. One of them was a leak, a database leak that ended up on some site that they paid for or got for free. Or the longer tail was this person actually had was part of some sort of project that was doing NFTs prior, and they had already collected a lot of this information and they had access to it because they were connected to another project and collected a lot of emails that might have been tied to OpenSea. So I personally think that's also just as likely because we're in sort of like blue ocean territory. A lot of stuff is up in the air. We don't really know exactly what's going where just yet. So long story short, they got that email list. To that email list, they blasted out an email that looks very much like OpenSea. And now that I have seen the real email, it does look like it came from a real OpenSea address. However, it likely was spoofed. It actually probably isn't a real OpenSea address. It just is meant to look just like one. Or unfortunately, maybe they were compromised in some way there just to make that attack seem extra valid and have more people even fall for it. But that email went out telling people to essentially switch their smart contracts in some way and essentially sign a new smart contract. And what was going on is that email was obviously fake. The link went to a page that was maliciously getting people to sign to the incorrect smart contract, which was owned by someone else. And then once people actually signed that smart contract, they were essentially giving permission for a free transfer of the NFTs. So the NFTs were essentially given as a gift, sort of. And that went forward. Then all the NFTs were gifted to that, of course, recipient, who was the hacker who sent the email and set up the smart contract. And that's kind of how everything was lost. And the reason that these attacks happen is because they're not sophisticated in the sense of they're not difficult to do, but they are sophisticated in the sense of you have to make things look really, really good and be smart enough to understand the human element of security, which is always social engineering and how people handle those sort of things.
On that note, Rick, it's kind of notable that the email, the phishing email was sent one day after OpenSea sent an email. So that made it more look legit, I guess.
Yep.
And, like you said, like it was sent from what appeared to be an OpenSea address, or it was spoofed. Maybe there's something you can expand on that. Like, what kind of ways are there that those email addresses can be spoofed?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've done anything with them, but I do know, and I do remember back in the day, it was actually really easy to use a mail relay to essentially make it look like you're sending an email from another address, or to spoof the home domain of that address that was actually getting sent from. And that's a possible method of doing that sort of email spoofing. But usually things are a little bit more secure, and that domain is actually a Google domain, and they usually have DMARC and SPF records to prevent those sort of attacks. So it's kind of like, it's possible that happened, but it's also possible it was an actual compromised email. So something for them to look into. And of course, like I mentioned, more details will unravel as time goes on, even though the hype from all of this attack will be sort of waning down in the next 5 days here. The actual results of what happened and the forensics from it are going to come out weeks or months from now. That's just kind of how it is.
That's probably why the communication about it was also that bad, right? Because if there are so many options, right, you can't really communicate. And like, it must be really hard if you are a victim of this as a company, how to mitigate all the, how to crisis manage actually.
Yeah, I've been doing cybersecurity for over 15 years personally, and I can tell you that, like I mentioned in the beginning, when an incident occurs, everyone is really quick to push the blame. And as security folks, we're always trying to improve that by making people understand that a breach isn't their fault. It's almost like the concept of victim blaming. We're not blaming them for falling for it. It just happened. And honestly, by owning it, we're able to get more out of it, in the sense of we're able to understand how the attack went down and have real solid images, because this is kind of going 10 steps above this particular attack. But normally what happens is some guy in a data center, of course, we're not talking about Web3 in this case, but some guy in a data center doing his job notices something goes wrong. And his first reaction is, I'm going to lose my job, so I need to remove any tracks that something went wrong. So he goes in and starts tampering with things, and then that prevents real data from getting out later around what went wrong. And honestly, Web3 and NFT stuff is going to be no difference. People's reactions are going to be, oh shoot, we lost all of this is gone, let's try to cover it up. And then they calm down and are like, wait, that's a bad idea, because we're going to start to ruin the evidence that may help us understand how the attack went down. And that's just kind of incident response 101.
Yeah, Rick, like you've got also a lot of experience within, well, you've got, most of your experience from Web 2, right? Cybersecurity. And obviously in Web 3, the main consensus, we are decentralized, we are more secure. But actually, right, this shows that there's still, a lot to do on that field. Can you explain us a little bit other differences between Web 2 and Web 3? Is Web 3 more secure?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously the goal of Web3 is to be more secure, but the one thing I will tell you is that when things are developed quickly and we're innovating fast in Web3, there's a new company doing something new with a new token that launches every single day, which means we're moving at light speed. When you move at light speed, it's really difficult to have consistent security built into everything that you do. It's kind of like security hinders growth and expansion and innovation, and innovation wants to separate itself from it because it doesn't want to be pulled back. And we're working on making that better all the time, but at the same time, it still is true. So like things like smart contract security is still a huge problem. That's why every project that, if you're trying to invest or if you're trying to be a part of it or just use it, whatever it may be, you want to make sure they had it audited. But I would say you want to go one step further and make sure it's been audited after every late major change. And then also, you might even want to see if they've done something more than auditing, like some sort of penetration testing on their applications that utilize their smart contracts and the other things like that. So there's more that needs to be done from that side to even match. Web3, like you mentioned, is inherently more secure in a number of different ways that I think are pretty obvious to most people anyway, with the decentralization and how things are encrypted. But at the same time, they're very visible, meaning things don't need to be hidden. Lots of really interesting stuff that we're all, working towards. But the thing that never is going to go away, and that kind of rounds back to the point number one, is social engineering and phishing. We're always going to be, the people are the weakest link. If you can convince someone to sign a smart contract, whether it be good or bad, in the sense of like it was coded well or not, if you can convince someone to give up their passwords, if you can convince someone to give up their 2FA, which really is not hard, by the way, then you're still going to fall victim to these sort of attacks, and we're still going to have these problems as time goes on. But thankfully, we've solidified other things in Web3 to prevent application layer things and network layer problems that you used to see in Web2.
Yeah, so Rick, so here's the important question, right? Like, how do we prevent from social engineering and phishing, especially nowadays with a lot of the Web3 applications and the fast-growing industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things everyone can do to stay secure personally. Of course, always use multi-factor authentication for everything you do, even though I just mentioned you can thwart it, you should still be using it, absolutely. Multi-factor authentication at a bare minimum, using a browser that you trust with applications within it that keep you private and protected, which we'll talk about with Interlock that I created. But furthermore, when you're actually doing actions, opening emails, clicking links, make sure that even though this one looks really sophisticated and that email is correct, I didn't look at the HTML, or rather the email headers, to understand whether or not there's anything indicating in the headers themselves. But you can actually look in the headers and understand whether or not there's something was spoofed in that email. And then always make sure that every link that you're about to click in your email, you review before you click it. Or if you do click it, you review the URL to confirm what you're looking at is what you expect. And then as a last resort, just kind of relook over everything one more time, especially when you're dealing with NFTs or DeFi or anything like that, because there are so many scams going around and everyone's really excited and we're always rushed. Like I talked about, we're innovating so fast. It's like, if you're whitelisted and you need to get the token, you want it like this second, not 5 seconds from now. But there are problems with moving that fast because you're easily tricked. It's just human psychology. You're easily tricked if you feel rushed and you feel like you need to do something as quick as possible. It's easy to convince you to do something else because you're already in this mindset that I got to get it done. It doesn't matter what I do to get it done. I just got to get it done. Same goes to say when you work at a company, that's how breaches happen at companies with social engineering. Fake being the CFO and they're like, I need to transfer this money. He told me to transfer it. I got to get it done. And then,
or like in a Tinder swindler.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. In that
exactly.
moment, you're like, oh my God, I need to do this for this person. They told me to do it. I got to get it done. Those are really good ways to prevent it. But in my mind, we've been trying to fix cybersecurity for 25 years. And I personally have been trying to fix it since 2013, running startups, creating products and tools that help individuals stay safe online. And the most recent iteration of that, of course, is Interlock, and the product that we create is Airlock. And the idea of Airlock is it gets installed inside of your browser and it prevents you from losing your data, whether that be a password, whether that be accidentally signing a smart contract that you shouldn't and losing your NFT, blocking malicious extensions. And the goal of Interlock is to protect you from all of those sort of attacks and then reward you for sharing data around what those attacks that you saw might look like. So we collect some security data and reward you with our ILOCK token while you stay completely safe online. And in this particular case, we're working towards being able to do not smart contract security in the sense of like we're analyzing a smart contract, but letting you know this might not be the smart contract you think it is based on reputation and trust systems that we're building. But even in the meantime, if that URL inside that email was something that we didn't recognize, our product didn't determine in real time was something safe, then you would have got a warning letting you know not to interact with it because it could be malicious. And that's how we would have prevented anyone who fell for this particular attack from even going through with entering that smart contract, or I'm sorry, signing that smart contract, because the product would stop it.
Yeah, like the project, your project, the Interlock, fits really well in what we see now happening in crypto, and we need more things like that. Like you said, Web3 is moving fast. Everyone is focused on forward thinking and how can we develop a new thing. But what's actually more important is how can we protect ourselves and protect our capital, and right. So what actually I found really interesting that you said was that the users contribute to making the project Interlock even better by sharing some data anonymously. Is that then used for the protection of the users?
Yeah, so there's a number of things it's used for. So we collect, things like Brave. A lot of people use Brave. It collects demographic data around you as a user for advertisement purposes, and then to sell that data to people to essentially help them with those sort of activities. Our product is only collecting data around your browsing, which is anonymous and then private. So we're not collecting who you are or what you're doing. We're just collecting security data that helps improve our network. as well as helps improve our clients. So we also have enterprise clients who essentially use that same product that everyone else would be using to keep themselves safe, except they use it for their internal employees, but they also consume data to keep their products secure, to keep their own companies secure. And that data helps that happen too. So not only is our network improving, our whole entire product is improving, we're getting more customers, people are finding better and better results on both ends, which of course benefits everyone, because as we grow on one side, we grow on the other. So that's the best part about all of this. We're one of the first companies to essentially start from the ground up in that sense and use individual people who want to share their data and of course be compensated for it with a reward. We use their data to create essentially the first sensor network that's made of people, the average day person who's using the product, and that's first of its kind.
Yeah, indeed, because if you think about it, right, most cybersecurity products you pay a subscription fee for them to kind of harness that data and then improve the product. But what you're saying is with Interlock, like using Interlock, you're kind of are rewarded for your contribution to it. And I think that's fully, that's really decentralized in a sense, right? So that's really what's flipping, I think, the game in that space as well. And aligns really well with Web3 in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we did it, really. Right now, so what that data turns into is called threat intelligence. That's what it's called. You can Google it and see all about threat intelligence. And threat intelligence right now is created through servers and scanners going out and trying to find threats, and occasionally reported threats from individuals or sensor networks, like I mentioned. But it's never the browsing of everyone as a whole to create threat intelligence, which is what we're doing. And that's kind of why it's so different from that aspect. And with that, that means there's no patient zero, which means the first attack that someone has seen, you're protected because our product does that sort of detection in real time. And then every other product gets smarter. So we distribute that data to all of the other products of the world who consume threat intelligence, which, to be clear, almost every large enterprise and every security company in existence currently does consume threat intelligence. And that's how they make their products more safe. So not only are the people in our own network growing our network and making us better and making themselves safer and the companies that work with us better, we're actually helping everyone everywhere get safer. And that's one of the cool parts of our product. We're going to impact everyone everywhere at some point.
Yeah, that sounds really, really interesting. And by the way, Rick, the project is in a very early stage when it comes to the crypto space as well, right? So there's still opportunity for people to join the community early and to potentially in the future invest in the token as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, correct. First off, we're going to be launching the consumer version of the product soon in waves of beta testers. So limiting the numbers as we go along, and then sort of doing a massive release. So if you want to join in early, of course, there's more to be had when you join in early and help us beta test, but it is a limited group. And then of course, when we launch the token, there'll be opportunities for it on exchanges and IDO platforms, things like that.
Nice. Really looking forward to it. How can people join Interlock? Well, what's the best way for them to
you can go to our website, which is https:// of course, interlock.network. And that will give you the links to our white paper, our light paper, if you want to read more, but then more importantly, our Discord, our Telegram, Twitter, and you'll be able to keep up to date with all of that and have discussions. We're pretty much always in there. Someone from the team is always there to talk. So
nice. I will leave some links below this video. Great, man. Great to have you on. I really enjoyed this conversation, Rick. Next time when there is something happening in cybersecurity, I know where to find you.
Well, hopefully it isn't people losing money, right? We can talk about other things that aren't people losing.
Yeah, true. Cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot, man.
Of course.